We were just talking about how we have no idea who is going to be able to take this match. We're both expecting big things. I am Zombie Grub, and I am casting with Rotterdam. We got the perfect combination of casters for these perfect combination of players. Wow. Starting off on Ephemeron. I said it. In the bottom right has the blue Protoss. He is Tanks Neeb.
Protoss staff tool. Let's see about that. It's been tough, especially against this guy. On the left top side, hailing from China. He's one of the top Terrans in the WCS circuit. It is time.
That's very interesting after, like, you know, you can speak a lot about this, right? Years of, it seems like Protoss coming out from that region. And then the guy now is like the Chinese player is actually a Terran player.
Yep. Yeah, once upon a time we had like XY, I think was his name, right? He was actually quite decent. Had a couple good games here and there, but obviously in the early days it was all about Jim and Maxset, and a little bit later it was about the Zergs. We had Tutming, Jigua, and Ayasonu, all three of them quite decent. But what time is showing us is really a much more complete version of Starcraft. He's not a one-dimensional player, he's just very good all around. We saw quite a bit of his games yesterday when he went up against Australia, and that was awesome. That kind of gives me the idea that maybe time is like a minor favorite here, but then I'm like, well, Neeb just 3-0'd Clem, who's really freaking good right now, and is 7k MMR, so I just don't know. Most of the time I feel really strongly towards one player or the other. Can even say like 3-0, maybe a 3-1 or something. This, I actually don't know. Time could win 3-0, Neeb could win 3-0. It could be very close. It's flip a coin for me, honestly.
Yeah, and to be clear, you know, you might be like, well, you know, Australia is a worse player than Clem, right? So, you know, Time having struggles with him. Like, that was a very, very close 3-0 between Time and Australia. Australia was actually just matching Time's skill level. So these guys, I absolutely agree. Like, I think they're both at an even level. We might have some problems with like Neeb, I guess maybe not always practicing like Korean server, where Time definitely is. Where you know, outside of that era where the Chinese meta was so different, right? No, he basically plays like a Korean player. But I like Neeb, actually, his specialization has always been like playing in like all the regions, being able to adapt to all the regions metas. But we have something very sneaky already from Neeb. I mean, I don't think we would really usually be the one to point.
Oh my
say
goodness.
that he's doing something weird,
I think
but he
it's a
absolutely
Dark
is.
Shrine, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Dark Shrine makes a lot of sense here, because I think in general Time loves to make like very heavy 2-base pushes on tiny maps. Time is very good at being clutch, decisive, and just winning games. And if there's one thing you don't want to do when you pull your SCVs, is also having to scan every 10 seconds, because there are Dark Templars slicing with your army. Don't push the Reaper towards your Dark Shrine.
Oh my gosh. I mean, he's always going to go over that bridge because he's going to try and go back home is the expectation. But all it takes is just one, like, I'm just going to send it over there, and suddenly it finds the Dark Shrine. And that is that's going to be really sneaky. That is very sneaky. Time's going for a factory opener, reacting out these oracles, which keeps you safe against a lot of those follow-ups. If your Hellions don't do a lot or they don't buy a lot of time, you can check against the oracles. You just have a follow-up with a mine drop as well that can get some scouting. But this is the fastest Dark Shrine you can make on these two bases. He sees things are, I mean, kind of normal, right? Like 2 gateways, a robo on the front, nothing suspicious here.
Nope, and that probe is still hidden as well. I really like this by Neeb, especially because once again, I think Neeb is anticipating a pretty aggressive time here. Not just this Widowmine drop, but most likely the follow-up, right? It's a drop, let's see if we can do some damage, then grab up the entire army, maybe even pull SCVs and just try to win the game. But that is not good versus the Dark Shrine. Dark Templar is going to show up in the main, natural, and on the army. You're going to have to scan so many times. So I think this is actually a very smart strategy by Neeb, but it still all comes down to the execution, and let's see how he defends the Widowmine drop, because he doesn't have that many units right now.
That's a very good point. The Widowmines could do more damage than these DTs. Time, I mean, if you're at all paranoid of DTs, you would be saving scans about now. He's going to get near the natural. Immediate probe pool. I don't think too many probes are going to go down, and he's not scouting into the main base either to see anything else that might be suspicious.
One could still fire. He still has one mine that could fire.
Uh-oh.
The one in the main, yeah. I actually would have loved to see him just reburrow it.
Oh, the DTs. The DTs are going to the natural. That one's going to be just getting one probe. There we go. Scan was available. Time had one ready to go. And I believe they took out the DT going to the main base. This one's going to survive, so we're not going to have any easy 1-0 here
but the
for
Raven
anyone.
is about to pop, right? It's actually really good for time that he went for the Raven here. Raven obviously very good with 2 base pushes, but he's going up to 3 bases as well. This Dark Templar is annoying, but I really think that Neeb hoped for quite a bit more than what he actually got here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Nate's like talked about or maybe it was Pig. Someone's talking about the Ravens don't actually get made immediately, where maybe there was a meta at one point where they were always coming out. So maybe Neeb was hoping that wouldn't be created. Unfortunately, it was already on the way, and it pops out at the perfect time. It's still going to be really obnoxious to deal with DT run-bys, and War Prism's already threatening enough, but on top of that, having to have the Raven position or a scan.
Yep, this is going to be a bit frustrating. This Dark Templar in the main base can do quite a bit of damage. I don't think this DT's... Whoa, okay. That's a Roy Wall if I've ever seen one. That's actually going to be very frustrating because I don't think he's expecting that. So Time is going to end up losing a few more SCVs. Well, I actually liked his start. I really thought the Widowmine phase was very successful because of the insane amount of lost mining time. But obviously, the longer this game goes, the less of an impact that actually has. And now you got to start liking this game for Neeb a little bit with a 17 worker advantage. I mean, that's pretty massive.
Oh, I absolutely love it for Neeb. Time is actually also messing up a lot of I mean, it's very slight, but he is messing up his build here and there. Later orbital, not starting his upgrades. His gas has to be taken off to run away from the DTs, and he's not putting it on immediately. There's more than even just the direct damage, and the direct damage is pretty good. Neeb is up 20 workers. His third base is about to finish, and he started all of his upgrades. And now, if Time would push across the map, however, he would not have any upgrades of his own. It would just be the army.
Wow, second robo already as well. 6 minutes and 40 seconds in. What I really like, by the way, by Neeb here is that he's going charge before Blink. Blink is very good, but it's not that good in straight up fight. Whoa, that's a big loss. That's a very, very big loss. Time gets a massive victory there. I mean, if Charge finishes up, though, I just don't know if Time can really stick around on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many Zealots. There's a couple of Immortals in the mix as well. And there isn't really a lot of firepower in these Marines that don't even have Stim yet.
Yeah, and Charge is going to finish. I mean, there's not really that many Stalkers, though. He's going to come around from the side. He's going to come from around the back, try and get those tanks with the Immortal. That actually might just work. The Marines can't respond too quickly. And the Guardian Shield was very late. What were they doing?
They took a detour, a very good interference matrix, but I still think Neeb should be more than fine. It's an ugly fight. I think Neeb is making this a bit more complicated than it has to be, but he's still going to clean this up, I think, in the end, and he's going to be in a very, very good position. Yeah,
he's going to lose more gas, expensive units especially, than he really maybe should have, or not. He's actually microing back and forth on 2 sides now, and it's Time having to respond, so the sentries will live.
Why is he getting so many Stalkers if he actually gets charged first? I really feel like 5 Zealots there is amazing. There's no way that Time can do anything about it.
I definitely agree. Maybe it's an instinct off of previous other types of games, but this is where the pylon was. So he's going to go ahead and harass the third base. Time only at 49 workers to 67 is Stim. Combat shields and +1 are finishing for what is hopefully going to be the drop round as his medevacs also pop out, but DTs are going to continue buying that time and forcing them to stay at home.
This is so annoying to deal with if you're Time. Obviously, he lost a Raven as well with his move out, so he's going to have to be very careful. He's probably going to be forced to scan once or twice. He just got the tank with the Dark Templar. Why not? There was no missile turret there. There was no detection there. This stuff is so frustrating. This Dark Templar is going to show up one more time. That missile turret is not done yet. So I think Time is going to end up losing a few more. Oh, come on. It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's so good. Of course, the mule's got to come down. So he's not really wanting to go ahead. Oh, really?
I mean, Time still absolutely has a shot, right? Because he does have 52 SCVs left. He's got 56 army. We know how good Time is. His micro is absolutely fantastic. I mean, Gabe showed us some great control yesterday when it comes to playing versus Disruptors. But Time did the exact same thing. Can he snipe another Warp Prism? That'd be big. He does have Stim right now, so he could go for the quick unload. Yeah, he should get that easy. Easy peasy.
I don't know.
Well, if you dropped 2 Marines on the high ground.
I think the boost was just a little early to get over that high ground. So it was kind of an awkward scenario there, but good for Neeb fans, right? Neeb gets away with his Warp Prism. That's still a threat out on the map.
I really love that he has a Dark Templar in between these bases because there's, once again, no turret here. So this kind of stuff is so frustrating. You don't want to obviously scan over and over again, but these Dark Templars have been a real nuisance for their time.
Oh, and the Warp Prism's coming in there as well, so 2 Marines might be enough to take over 1 DT, but what about the Warp Prism? Time does have 2 attacks getting prepared. Finally, one is hitting a 4th base. Neeb might have to give... No, it's actually his army's in the 3rd base. I think he can respond to that. And the Warp Prism did drop off the Zealots in the main.
Yep, I don't see that prism anymore, so I don't know if it's still alive, but let's see. This actually is a gnarly army, though. If you're going to get a couple of Liberators siege up as well, Neeb is way out of position trying to deal with that triple drop. I actually think this is still quite exposed. I think Neeb should have the units to take care of this, especially with all these Stalkers. He does have Blink at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he recalled on the right side, and then the rest of the army comes off the left. Now, that does open up the fourth base. Neeb actually not responding to this as well as he could have. Is going to lose the fourth Nexus. Now, it's not the most devastating of losses. He still has that 70 workers, so it is just the 400 minerals to replace that, and, of course, the time to wait. But he's got 2-2 finishing up. He is on his way to Storm. And he can now maybe apply some of the pressure again, get another War Prism, try to do something to buy more time. But time really, I mean, that DT stuff has been going on for so long. I think his build really was just like off kilter because of it. But he's really doing an excellent job of repairing this game. Like it's back to like, okay, well, you get EMPs out, you get a couple of Liberators and Neeb. I mean, he might have the upgrades, but is he going to have the positioning?
The army movement by time that was really good. Do we still have the 2 robots? I'm not crazy, right? There are 2 robotics facilities for Neeb. Yes, I'm so shocked that he didn't have any observers almost. I really feel like he was just too blind. I think when you play against these super high-level Terrans, vision is everything. And he just had no idea where these units were coming from. And if you have one robot and you're forced to make like a Colossus or an Immortal or a Prism, I get it that you can't have too many observers, but he's had double robot for the last 5 minutes and he barely had any map vision.
Yeah, it was definitely a mistake. I think there might have been some, overconfidence with the DT scouting and the War Prism keeping units back. So he missed that second army leaving when maybe he really thought he would have seen it at least respond to the DT. So it's kind of a perfect scenario. Neeb's not going to be making that mistake again. But that does mean that time has kind of bridged this mid-game, or maybe he could have been weak. Again, the 2-2 timing with that Storm. He's actually going to be fine. We are in Ephemeron, which has kind of that high ground, strategy where you can actually get the turtle mode in a little bit with Liberators. You got a bridge, you got a ramp, and that's exactly what he's doing while he's getting a fourth base. And of course, that ever-important EMP upgrade. That has been, I think this actually might be like the story of the tournament, aside from the beautiful BlizzCon top 8 and whatnot, but this upgrade, man, like, is it a little too good?
No, I don't think it's a little too good, but I do think it's very good. But I'm happy to see it, right? Because it's actually fun. Terrans are no longer that afraid to make the games go past the 10-minute mark anymore. And I really think it has done great things to this matchup, at least from everything I've seen so far. Now, there's a couple of very interesting things happening. Neeb is getting his Robo Bay. I feel like it was quite late, but he did get Storm first, so he does already have some splash damage. I think that time is doing indeed a very good job. Like you said, really hang in there, crawl his way back into the game. The upgrades, however, though, that's going to be painful. Like, imagine 2-1 against 3-3. Like, there is a very good chance we're going to see that in a minute from now. And I just don't know how you win those fights. I mean, yeah, the EMP is fantastic, but can you really overcome 3 upgrades?
Yeah, the upgrades are going to be a problem. But Liberators here, if they siege up immediately and get involved in the fight immediately, then that could be a problem. But they're actually sieging so late. There's a huge 270 concave coming in from Neeb, Storms included. Liberators gets a couple of shots, and actually he's all out of Storm time, which is barely enough on that top side. Vikings land, and this is a more fair fight than I expected.
I actually thought this was a terrible fight for time, but he's hanging in there for quite some time. Now with the reinforcements, Neeb is still going to clean this up, but to me that felt like an absolute disaster. It really did not feel that time was ready for that battle at all. Feel like he was caught completely off guard, somehow made something out of it, but given how bad the engagement was and how far behind he is in upgrades, yeah, that actually went better than I thought it would go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he still is down 30 supply. Ooh. Very awkward time to be sending that fourth base out. And Liberators, once again, well, I think the blink was just used, so maybe look at a couple of shots, and that's 5 Liberators now sieging up here. And a bit of a choke as well, Neeb, with a lot of stalkers, but doesn't matter. The point is, he had more army no matter what it was, and time has to tap out. Neeb looked very pensive about that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty interesting one, right? It's a game with a lot of layers, in a way, or layers rather. It's just like the DT phase was very interesting. I actually don't think that the defense against the Withermines was perfect. It definitely wasn't bad, but he really did lose a lot of mining time. But I guess that's always going to happen if you open up with DTs, because you don't have Blink, you don't have a Stargate, and you're just kind of short on units in general, right? So we can't be too hard on Neeb when it comes to that phase of the game. It was fun. It was definitely a little back and forth. Time was behind, but still made a game out of it.
Yeah, I kind of attribute it to the awkward handling of the Marine tank push. I really thought that could have been an absolute slam dunk. Like,
yeah, with like 5 Zealots and a Guardian shield.
Why are you even like pushing into me? And then like, even a counterattack might even be able to happen. But instead, it was awkward. It took a long time. It grabbed a couple of units that it shouldn't have. And the game was allowed to continue. And then time, with what, we kind of expected, but Neeb maybe temporarily forgot, was like, okay, I see one drop. I guess that's what I have to deal with. And then the second push, like, there's definitely moments where Neeb made mistakes, but he'd already gained so much momentum from the DTs.
Yeah, it's quite shocking to see Neeb not being aware of like an army that's almost 40 supply, just roaming around the map somewhere and then suddenly showing up in his natural. That just doesn't happen that often, especially not if he has 2 robos. He had all the time in the world to get a couple of observers out, but in the end, it doesn't matter. The only thing that does matter is that Neeb has a 1-0 lead, and he absolutely did a lot of good moves, obviously, as well, to get there. Now, let's see what the second map is, because I would love to see these guys play on Disco Bloodbath, a bigger map with a lot of drop potential as well. I mean, Time is so freaking good. I think he's so amazing to watch it. It's going to be fun. Give us something big.
Give us something good. It is going to be Thunderbird, second biggest map. That's pretty good. In the top left, grabbing that last game, he is the blue Protoss, Neeb.
The American hero, the star of 2017 when it comes to the WCS circuit, going up against this man in the right bottom side, hailing from China. It is the one and only Time.
And Time's looking for that performance that he had last year in Montreal, where it was really his breakout performance, the main WCS stop, getting to that round of 4. Interesting fact, Raynor was the one that knocked both of these guys out in the last Montreal. Neeb only made a round of 16 because of that, so they're already doing a bit better than last year, and it would be awesome to have another North America representative alongside Special.
Yeah, I remember that, but I think, was Neeb like, was he sick, or he said something that it was like super jet lagged or sick back then? I think he had a very rough day.
He did indeed. It was a 3-2, so it was also really close.
Yeah, that's one. A lot of people are like, man, Neeb was sick and he still almost defeated Raynor. You guys are going to stop hyping up Raynor. And I was like, well, Raynor actually deserves all the hype, okay? He turned out to be very good in the end. Oh, yeah, that was a fun tournament, and that was definitely indeed the first time that Time really showed up where it's like, holy crap, this guy is that good. And it's so funny because in the beginning of 2018, I spoke very highly of him in Leipzig. I was like, I actually think that this guy's super good. I really think he can make some waves. And then he just bombed out very early on in the tournament, and then people told me, like, yeah, Time is not practicing at all. And I'm like, what? Why? And then in Montreal, when I didn't know he was actually practicing, that's when he really showed up. And he even 3-0'd Hero Marine back then, right in that TVT. That was crazy.
Yeah, Hero Marine attributing it to, or other pro players, which they were attributing it to the different style that Time had in that TVT, which I brought it up. But Neeb is not throwing out different styles in, like, region base. He's just being a little cheesy, man. Like, he's definitely mixing it up from what we expect.
Stargate, I guess, right? Proxy Stargate?
Yeah, I think so. Gonna have exactly 150 gas. There we go. It looks dangerous to put it there, but the Reaper, unless it was to check the plateau, would never go to the right side there.
Nope, that's not a normal way to send your Reaper. And Reaper obviously cannot hop over those rocks, so it's gonna scout. Everything looks standard right now. If you have time, you're like, oh, okay. It's just a regular game, just a good old 1 gauge fast expand. Nothing too crazy here. Now, it is important that you don't push the Reaper away too far. Wow, it's got super fast gas there.
Is he?
If he actually takes it in.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, I was wondering what you were talking about, but yeah. He's rallied from the factory. Well, he doesn't know about the Stargate. Or the command center was very fast.
Does he want to play Mac? Is there a chance? He opens up with like Mac Field Accelerator here. That's his side. Or maybe he just wants to do one of those marine pushes with Mac Field Acceleration.
I mean, it's possible. And like there's TBT where you get fast third gas, but that is to get the 2 Ravens, but not really something you would see in PVT. Oracle's being chronoed. That's the more immediate concern. Now, a Cyclone will be out to tackle it, assuming that it's not busy with the other units that he be sending across the map. The Reaper finally got in the main base. The pop-up spot was blocked. He doesn't get the full scout, technically, but I think he saw that something was up. It's a little bit late in the bunker, though.
Yep, the bunker's not done yet, but the Cyclone's about to pop. It's most likely going to lock on the Stalker. But now that Oracle shows up, and it's very important for Time that he saves his Cyclone.
That was a little awkward there, but the Oracle barely living.
Cyclone's
awkward for both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was such a weird fight. It's like, is anything gonna die? And they're all like sitting at each other, looking at each other very low on HP. It's like, No, I'm not moving. Are you moving? It's like, well, now there is so much micro potential suddenly in this little cyclone that I don't think it's ever going to go down. And this didn't really work out for Neeb. I mean, look at time. He even cancels the bunker. He's like, yeah, don't need it. Never thought I did anyways.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that is confidence. And the tank finishing up does also make a lot of sense. Why he would feel confident. The Viking will be able to push back any further Oracle problems. I mean, he's going to be defensive for a while longer. We are on the, I believe this is officially the second largest map now with Disco Bloodbath in the map pool. So, you know, push across the map. Obviously, Neeb would see that. And we're going to go in a bit more of macro mode now.
You got to be so careful flying in the main base if there is a Cyclone and a Viking. One lock on, 1 or 2 hits of that Viking, and Oracle can go down very quickly. Revelation is being used. Cyclone tries to get quite a few hits off. Throws down the scan, and he will get it. And that was the full HP Oracle as well. So don't forget that the other Oracle is actually quite low on HP. So he's going to have to be very careful with that. Neeb, that is. As one more Oracle shows up. Triple Oracle opening. That's quite the commitment.
Yeah, he really wants triple Oracle. He's getting a 4th one, technically, with the loss. So that is that going to be helpful? He sees the push moving across the map. It's going to take a little while, as I was saying, so he's going to be able to prepare. But it's a question of, is he even going to be able to get enough?
I actually am very worried here because Neeb's army is going to suck, Jess. There's no other way to put it. It's just very basic gateway units, no charge, no blink. There's no robo there. Like, as soon as 2 tanks are sieged up, I have no idea how Neeb is going to engage that. I mean, he's going to need to get lucky with his stasis trap, but it's just going to be SCVs. That's not even that bad. The Viking is very far forward, but the Cyclone makes it so hard as well for Neeb to kite. I think Neeb is in a world of trouble because I just don't see him get on top of these units. Maybe this is probably the best moment. Just go for it immediately.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to go for it. One tank is actually only shooting 1 Stalker, so that's kind of the best scenario for Neeb. Very close here. Shield batteries are going to finish, and he does have a round of reinforcements to maybe hold on, but time actually mined out the middle of the map, so he's coming faster through it than you usually should.
Whoa, he gets one more tank there as well. I mean, Time was trying to do some fancy micro with the Cyclone, Medevac, and tank. That didn't actually work out that well. Maybe pull some probes, Neeb, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to go to clean this up. And there really aren't that many support units right now. But this is it, right? These Protoss units, they feel so clumsy and silly because you want to blink forward, you want to get like a flank or an engagement, you want to get on top of the tanks, but it's hard. He's spreading out the Stalkers. Pull probes, Neeb. I really think like you should go now because there's barely anything.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's doing a good job denying the bunkers, which is what I'm really scared of. So another SCV comes forward. The last SCV, in fact, is going to try and complete that bunker. Depowering the shield batteries was just finished, but he's got a wide concave. He's going to go for it. No bunker's going to finish. 3rd tank's going to help in its normal DPS mode, and an Oracle even comes in to help out. I think with the concave, it will barely be good enough. Severe losses of expensive Protoss units, sure, but it is enough.
Yeah, well done by Neeb. Beautiful patience there, and he's still up 15 workers as well. That's the most impressive part during all of it. Wow. I mean, that actually went very, very well for Neeb. I think the initial batteries, they were absolutely worth their weight in gold. If he doesn't have those, his units melt and it's over. But as soon as you take care of the Marines, right, it's suddenly the tanks start feeling a little more exposed. They start feeling a little more naked. And I must say, Neeb did a fantastic job in being as patient as possible and spreading his stalkers out a little bit as well. So if the tanks fire, they don't fire on 6 stalkers, but it's just 1 or 2 that actually get hit by the splash damage. Yeah, very well done. That was beautiful.
Yeah, incredible crisis management. Things were not lined up to go well. Things weren't going that well initially, and he still managed to actually make it work. Now, the follow-up was mech, so you're right about that. There's a chance you can get stim behind a push like that, but it would have started, ages ago. So into mech it goes. Double armory as well. We are on a map that does allow itself to 3 or even 4 bases easily.
This is going to hurt, though. The robotics facility just now finished up. The Oracle's way out of position, and we don't have an observer yet that's out on the map. So that's 5-6 probes going down very quickly. There is Revelation available, but that's 7 probes for the very first Banshee. I think Time is going to be more than pleased with that.
Very nice stuff there. Neeb is going to start maybe wondering what exactly is going on because he hasn't gotten across the map in a while. Another cloaked Banshee, but an observer is waiting this time. Blink's not done, but it runs right into the Stalkers. Wow. There's just too many of them.
First Banshee, fantastic. Second one, disastrous. No other way to put it. And that's actually kind of bad for Time because Time is obviously waiting for his production to really kick in. It's going to take a little while. Neeb flies into the main base now, and he's going to see that he is indeed going up against a mech build. He's getting a second robo and a robotics bay. I wonder if he goes some... You don't go Colossus, right? I think Disruptors is so much better, but...
Yeah.
Some of them actually like having a couple of Colossus to deal with the Hellions and Hellbats. And, like, I get the idea behind it, but I'm personally not a fan. I don't know.
I'm totally with you. I was surprised when, for a while there, Thermal was showing some mech that Protoss players were even, they're talking. They're like, yeah, you need a couple Colossus. I was like, oh, really? But yeah, so you get like maybe 2. I do think Disruptors can be very effective. They can shoot from a distant range, when the tanks are sieging up, and they're going to guarantee get good hits because mech units clump pretty poorly. But that is a Banshee getting another maybe 4 kills. Nah, it's going to die. Just 3. So Banshees, yeah, as you said, the first one was great. The other ones kind of make it to the Banshee play. Is not really totally worth it. Upgrade's going to be favorable for Neeb. He is going to go to Disruptors. He's with us. Got Neeb on our side.
Yeah, he started the Colossus, then he's like, nah, let's just go Disruptors immediately. And what I truly love here, Jess, is the +1 air weapons. Look at Mapu. He knew what I was going to talk about. Because if there's one thing I love against mech, it's like Carrier and Disruptor. I think having a couple Tempest is okay, but I never think you should have too many Tempests because then you make games awkward. Like, I think 6 is a very good number because then you can lose one, but you can still 2-shot Tors, and everything else is just Carrier, Disruptor. It's so freaking amazing against mech.
Yeah. I mean, the initial response of Cyclones, if you do see that they're going fast into air, can be okay, but as the number grows, you really want to go into Thors, and then there's going to be that classic battle. Carriers being buffed in the recent patch is actually going to come into effect in this game, potentially, but here starts at least the push out to the fourth base. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay, I think he thought everything was on stage, but there is a Disruptor showing up. 3 Hellbats do go down. It's going to be very hard for Time to push to the other side of the map. Even though it's only 2 Disruptors, this is just very, very annoying to deal with as a Terran player. Every single time I see a PvT of mech right now, I think of what Drogo told me half a year ago, and it was so funny. He's like, yeah, I've got a very good strat against mech. I was like, what is it? He's like, well, basically you just get Immortals, Archons, and you get all the upgrades. Then you drop 3 Stargates and a Fleet Beacon, so they start building Vikings, but then you just make more Immortals and you win. And I thought it was so brilliant. He's like, works every time. They end up with Tors and Vikings, and then you just have Archon Immortal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the dynamic between the Disruptors and the mech army specifically. You see Time really trying to counter Micro, but that's the other problem, is that not only do these units clump, but that they just aren't as fast as Tim Marines. So Disruptors coming left, right, center. So many of them. He's going to attempt to distract with some Blue Flame Hellion drops. Hellbats, well, it's going to be cleaned up pretty quickly.
I actually don't get it why they always morph it into Hellbats. Like, this would have been a lot better to just keep them as Hellions, because then they could have actually chased down the pros. But there is a big battle going on, and that's obviously where the majority of the priority is for both of these guys. Neeb is losing quite a few Stalkers, but he's been a very rich boy. But Time is actually securing his fort base, right, during all of this. Whoa, Neeb. Okay.
There's been quite a few too far forward steps from those Stalkers. There's been quite a few losses, but it is more about the Disruptors, and he's certainly been keeping, he's been keeping more of the Disruptors alive, and that is the more important part, as they are just going to be able to shoot. They're going to literally just be able to shoot on repeat as Time tries to get up this ramp, which I don't think is going to happen. And we do have the transition to air underway for Neeb. Time getting his 4th base up, getting a 5th base. He is going to be able to get his expansions. And he's going to be able to get a solid Cyclone count, but I mean, how's he going to deal with the amount of Disruptors?
Yeah, that's going to be very, very difficult. Obviously, if the tanks ever get close enough, it's going to be okay. But now the first Carrier is already on the way, and Carriers build a lot quicker than they once upon a time did. No, don't tell me he's building it on the other side of the map. Oh, Neeb. Okay. The flank Carrier, guys. That's a high-level play.
I hope it shows up at the 4th base. That would
be great. That's a scout, just a casual Carrier scout, right?
Yeah. Hellion's denied from harassing Neeb, as he did take a 5th base. Going to out-expand your mech opponent and hopefully out-tech them as well. Only 1 Carrier. Neeb is... Yeah, I mean, he could go into more, but Neeb is actually just going for the ground army, seeing that Time's on the Cyclones. Doesn't want to show his Carriers too soon and just got them wrecked by the lock-on. And this is going great. Disruptor should get a couple shots off soon. There we go. There we go.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of Cyclones going down immediately. That's a very smart play by Neeb as well. All of the Stalkers dragged the Hellions and Cyclones out of position. The tanks felt very exposed, and Neeb just collapsed on it. Even before the Carriers show up, before the first Interceptor has been built, Neeb is already getting a massive victory over this mech army, and things are starting to look very good in this best of 5 for the American Protoss.
Yeah, taking a ground fight before fully transitioning into the air went very well for Neeb, but Time is going to have a second chance, I believe. He's going to have, I mean, he's rebuilding quicker building units than normal. He's not replacing the tanks, replacing the Cyclones. Well, now some tanks on the way as he realizes the exact composition here, but Neeb certainly has control over this game, now finds the 5th base.
I'm really not feeling this anymore for Time, because now he's building Hellions into Carriers. That's just a very, very bad scenario. I don't know, how many star ports do we have, Mapo? Is it just 1 so far? I mean, how is he going to get enough anti-air? Cyclones can be good against Carriers, don't get me wrong, but that's never going to happen, right? Like, Neeb is never going to just sit there and be like, oh, you want to lock on all my carriers and kill them? Sure, like, I guess I'll just watch how that looks. Like, no, he's going to prevent that with Stalkers, with Zealots, with Disruptors. I mean, this is kind of a cool idea by Time, but he actually doesn't even really have the numbers. And even if he does, I mean, this planetary is going down on the right side of the map. This army of Neeb is only going to grow stronger and bigger. I mean, this is the Dream-Man carrier Disruptor. My man.
Yeah, the Disruptors will always safeguard those carriers, so they should. And we do have some Thors on the way now. It's first planetary down, second planetary looking to go down as well. That Master Pair pretty good against the little tiny attacks from a lot of interceptors. But more army is on the way as Neeb is on 75 workers. He can replace the armies. He can change up his tech as well, however he sees fit. And just continue with the carriers. The lock-ons are good.
Yep, they are good. I mean, Neeb is getting a little over-eager here. 2 carriers did go down, but all of the Cyclones have gone down. There is no anti-air left anymore. 1 Tor does show up, but it's basically 1 Tor against the entire army of Neeb.
Yeah, well, Thor's pretty good. He should have a buddy soon. There he is right there. Yeah. And the mass repairs is not bad. These Thors are upgraded, and Neeb did only stop just now finishing up that +2. Now. Yeah, now he can leave. He was missing some of the crucial parts of that army. A bit awkward there. He lets a few more carriers die than he maybe should have. Yeah. Certainly some of them very weak.
But he's so far ahead. That was a bit sloppy by Neeb, but I think it's also okay. Disruptor's going to go forward, forcing these Thors to move around a little bit as well. Splitting Thors against Disruptors, why not? But Time is truly fighting an uphill battle here. This is a fight that's simply not fair. A forward blink by Neeb as well. The Thors go down, and I think that's it, Jess. I think that's a 2-0 lead for Neeb.
That is very nice. Neeb not showing any weakness, and in fact showing the aggressive stance first and foremost, and finding at least some relative success with it. That last game did start off with quite a scary push, though. I mean, there was a chance.
It's really the hold that Neeb had early on that won him this game. I was incredibly worried. I was like, man, his army sucks. The Oracles didn't do a lot of damage, and that was a very, very impressive defense. Beautiful display of patience, like you said, great crisis management. I really think the batteries made all the difference in the world. Otherwise, that fight would have been horrible to begin with, and he would literally never break that. It would only push forward, further forward, and in the end, he'd be forced to run into like 5 tanks or something. But that was fantastic. I really think that's pretty much where Neeb won the game. After that, there were a lot of very cool moves, good micro, very good transitions, but Neeb obviously knew what he was going up against, and he basically had all the time in the world to get ready for whatever time was going.
Yeah, I mean, he got out of that fight that could have been devastating with a severe probe lead, and was able to just carry with the momentum and take out Time despite Time's attempt to really mix things up. Maybe he was hoping, right, that the mech would go ahead and surprise Neeb, or that Neeb is bad against the mech style, because there are certainly some players who struggle and they're like, I'm a little just confused. I scouted a bit late and then I don't have the right stuff. But Neeb had the absolutely right call. I'm really glad to see the Disruptors. If the Disruptors are already on the front line, right, ready to accept any type of push, I don't actually know how you really push into that, especially with how many he was able to get. Yeah,
you need to create space, I think, somewhere, right? Like a Liberator, harass, something like that. Just pull units out of position and then slowly but steady move forward. But Neeb's army movement was absolutely fantastic. It felt very action-packed, felt very dynamic. You could see that he was busy all over the place, and he is playing well, man. In the right bottom side of Triton, we're looking at the main base of the American Protoss representing Ting. He's up 2-0. It is Neeb.
And to the top left, as the red Terran, repping Newbie and China, he is Time.
Time has looked very strong over the last few months. He had a fantastic performance at GSL vs. the World. I would say a 3-0 victory over Su, one of the best Zerg players in the world. That's just crazy, that's sick. And I think that Time has looked very good against some of the Protosses in the WCS circuit as well in previous events. But today it's not really lining up yet. And we haven't even seen, we've been talking a lot about the EMP earlier today already in the pre-game as well, or the preview of the entire show, and also hyping up this match. We're all about the big battles right now, the even upgrades, the EMPs, they make it fair. We've barely seen that this series.
Yeah, the first game had the upgrade, but they didn't really have a chance to use it fairly. And then the second game, of course, with the mech. I mean, if mech goes for a really long time, there's always a potential chance for the transfer into Ghosts, but that was already a game kind of won after the Disruptor showed up and bullied Time back.
I actually think a couple of goals, like obviously this was not the game for it because Time didn't really have any momentum going. He was already behind in tech, so he couldn't really squeeze in goals anymore either. But I think if you would go up against a lot of Immortals and you have a sick mech army, but you're facing just ground, I think having a couple of goals is really sick because you activate the barriers and stuff as well. It's so good to have a couple goals in the mix, but I mean, Time just couldn't really afford that. If I go back, right, I don't want to be too critical because obviously after the tank push, I don't think he was in a fantastic position anymore. But it felt like the Banshee play was a tiny bit underwhelming. The first one was good, but I feel like a player like Time knows how good Neeb is, so you can't just really send in Banshees one by one and expect to get a whole lot done, right? Like, then try three Hellions somewhere, or 4 Hellions, and then also a Banshee, right? Create 2 problems. Then even if one of them completely fails, there's a good chance that the other one at least is successful, but you're not really going to pick Neeb apart by just sending one Banshee at a time to the other side of the map of Thunderbird.
Yeah, I think he was hoping that Neeb really was pushed behind on any other available tech options. Like the Observer was just right there with the Stalkers, and so it instantly killed a second Banshee. But because the way that it opened, it was a bit awkward. He was hoping that that first Banshee was actually like the biggest surprise on a person who was still recovering, but it wasn't really the case. Neeb actually was already recovered basically and just was like, oh, a Banshee, I'll deal with that. And it wasn't too bad. So Time maybe did underestimate, or rather overestimate the game, like, read it wrong a bit, but the Banshee certainly did not help that mid game. And I don't know, I did want to see more harassment. Like, Time is a guy we know for his speed, for his multitasking, and you can still do that with mech. It just wasn't really there last game.
Nope, and then we saw that Hellion drop as well, and I feel like if he just keeps him in regular Hellion mode, he can just drive. He would have killed 15 probes, and it's like, more into Hellbass. And obviously there was a big battle going on in the middle of the map, like I get it, but just a couple of things could have been better. And Time, the only reason we point out these things is because he has played so freaking amazing over the last few months, and he has showed us such a high level that it's okay when we see it, like, oh, you know what, Time? It's not bad, but we know you can do better. You have shown us that you're capable of better. Is Neeb going to do his disrupted drop opening over here?
I do believe he will. Like, this has been his go-to for also like a 2-game victory, right? It's what he did against Clem. He felt very confident doing it. Yeah. I think he did it in a previous series as well when he was up 2-0. So this might just be the like, oh, I think I've got the momentum. Now I'm going to really surprise him with the early disruptors and really control the game, but not do necessarily a cheese. Or maybe you particularly liked it on this map, I'm not sure. But it is Disruptors. We got the Warp Prism speed on the way. Time is going into bio with a fast Raven. Interference Matrix can be helpful against this, for sure. Especially if you're able to catch the Disruptor, maybe on the natural, and then the Warp Prism gets Interference Matrix, can't pick it up. That's bam, like a Disruptor right there did.
I think a Viking is super useful for Time as well, right? To keep that War Prism at bay. Even though Viking is not going to catch the Prism because the Prism is so fast, at least that forces Neeb to be a little more passive and a little more careful with it. It is very difficult to... Whoa, Neeb, I think he forgot his Disruptor.
You left something.
This color is really cool, by the way, after this Disruptor. It's super cool skin and everything. Now there's going to be a Colossus follow-up as well, but obviously for Time, guys, it's going to be very difficult to avoid these Disruptor shots because these Marines, they don't have stim yet. So they're going to be very, very slow. And it's important that you pay attention at all costs, otherwise 6-7 Marines can be gone immediately.
Yeah, you can go ahead and get into the Colossus as well as grab that third Nexus. If everything goes swimmingly with the Warp Prism, you're going to be scouting, you're going to be doing some damage, and if they say, okay, fine, I'm going to attack you, then you just continue throwing the Disruptor at them, and that also is a problem. So this just has to live, basically, to always be a threat. 4 SCVs go down immediately, and he does get the pickup with the Interference Matrix. That's the only thing I'm a little concerned about, but that Viking's not going to be on the way because he did go ahead and swap that Starport off, using it as a builder Starport for the reactor. Okay, actually he's going to make the Medivacs. It will time out with a stim. Okay, so that does make sense. But so far, no army losses. Couple Marines here.
No, okay. 2 Marines, I think, is not too bad for Time, right? I'd rather lose 2 Marines than 4 or 5 SCVs over and over again, because that's where things get very painful. Now, Stim is 70% done, like you said, Jess, and that's when Neeb's going to have to be a lot more careful. Obviously, an auto turret could also be dropped, but his Warp Prism is very fast, because it does have the speed upgrade.
Yeah,
Neeb's going to try to buy some time to delay this push.
I really think he has, the only option is to go from behind there, because the Raven is looking for the Interference Matrix to then catch the Disruptor again, because he's not exactly sure when Stim is finishing. It is finishing literally right now. +1 will be on the way too.
Neeb's army feels very weak, doesn't it? I mean, it really comes down. This Disruptor needs to do a little bit more than is done so far. Now the army is coming in from the bottom as well, but this is not an army of much. If you drop an Interference Matrix on the Colossus or the War Prism for like, whoa, that was bad.
He just knew it was going to be bad. So
and now he actually can't fire anymore. So now Interference Matrix does go down, and this army now without the Colossus will do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be able to buy a little bit more time before the third base is just dead. But the Raven is actually gone with energy. I don't know if he has an Interference Matrix left. He's going to go for the Disruptor Shot on top of the tank. He's looking for it. He's waiting for it. He's going in with everything he has. One Interference Matrix was available. Oh, the Disruptor Shot. Tries to go for the Marines. Catches the tanks. I don't know if this is going to be enough. The sentries go down. The Disruptor is the only thing he has left. He's going to go ahead and drop that to pick up the Colossus Micro.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to pick up both.
No, now Neeb is actually in a world of trouble. Time is slacking a little bit in the macro department. He was floating quite a bit of money, but he is doing such a fantastic job in this fight. Neeb is trying to show off a little bit here with the Colossus Micro, but he needs to do this well because that's the only strong unit that he has left. Oh my goodness, I can't believe he just dropped it in range of a tank and somehow it didn't go down yet. I mean, there's no pylon here. He can't reinforce, so I guess he has a War Prism.
Yeah, that's what he's going to go for. He is going to try and come once again through both angles. Raven very low. Is going to get taken out immediately. 2 tanks available. Another Colossus comes forward. And the initial one that was saved. Neeb barely going to hold with nice Warp Prism pickup micro and a couple reinforcements.
Wow. That was actually super impressive. At one point, I felt like Neeb had nothing other than a Colossus and a War Prism. And it's supposed to be an Immortal and a War Prism, but apparently the Colossus is good as well. Now, I still think this was a bit deceiving. It may look like, wow, Neeb defended. Is he in a good spot now? I don't think he is. He doesn't have any upgrades. He lost the majority of his units. He is behind economically at this point because Time obviously has triple orbital command. So Neeb needs a little bit more than what he got there, but I must say impressive hold.
And this is a really nice drop. Immediately using that Warp Prism. Now that's scary because the Vikings just popped out. Might go ahead and... Oh, he's going to escape to the south. Just leave the Zealots to die. They did their job. He's going to recall the Zealots, actually. I'm surprised with that. Saves 2 of them.
Every unit counts.
Yeah, I guess so.
If you're down in supply against the Terran, Neeb still doesn't have a Forge, by the way, right? Does he?
Yeah.
That's crazy. How often do you see that? A 9-minute PvT at the highest level without a Forge?
Yeah, I mean, he might have been pushing off intentionally, and then the attack happened when he was about to put it down type thing, and then he might just have forgotten it. Or he could think that he couldn't afford it, but that's, well, I'm looking at the minerals and gas right now, and that's not true.
Maybe Neeb is going to try to get a couple Archons here because he does have that Templar Archives. Time is attacking once again. I love Time, and I think that it's so fun to watch him play because he's such a hyper-aggressive Terran player in general. And like I said, never a dull game with Time. But sometimes he does just attack for the sake of attacking. There's technically no reason for Time to attack here.
No, Neeb's going to be moving forward instead of to the left. He doesn't realize the army's there. Now he does. Nexus already weakened from that earlier fight. Could go down. That's actually a decent Protoss army, though.
Yeah. Even though it doesn't have any upgrades, it does have Colossus. It has Archons. The Archons will tank. There's an Immortal in the mix as well. It can take care of the Marauders. And this is kind of what I mean, right? Like, does Time need to attack? He's way ahead in upgrades. He was ahead economically. This felt a little bit stubborn, and now he's actually losing a lot of units at home. And he kind of lost the fight here on the south side. Oh no, Time. What have you done? GG. Just like that. Neeb with the clean sweep.
Yeah, once again taking out a promising young Terran. I mean, we could have thought like, oh, maybe Clem was having a bad day or he was particularly on fire, but no, he's just good to go for this entire tournament against any Terran that's left over, and he will keep the Protoss stream alive.
Yes, the only Protoss in the tournament will make it to the semifinal, and that is obviously fantastic news for us because that means that all 3 races are going to be represented in the semifinals. I thought it was a fun series. Jess, final words?
I'm looking forward to what he has to offer Montreal. Take it away, Cloaken.
Thanks so much, Jess. That's right. I'm here with Neeb. Congratulations. Clean sweep. Did you expect it to go down 3-0?
No, actually, I mean, I didn't expect to 3-0 Clem either yesterday, so, I mean, it felt similar to that, honestly. Like, the game's played out the same way where, I mean, I kind of just killed him with some attacks in the mid-game, and I don't know, like, I mean, it felt easier than it should have been, I think.
You know, last time we spoke on this stage, I asked you about your confidence level, and it seemed a little bit kind of iffy. Obviously, we know what side of the bracket you're on and that kind of thing, but you're playing very strong. Does a game like this boost your confidence going into your next match?
Yeah, definitely. Another 3-0 was really nice, but I mean, I play Cyril next, I'm likely to play Cyril next, so I mean, I can't expect much. I'm already happy with this result. It's pretty good.
Awesome, yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, we all know Cyril's a very strong player, maybe one of the best. How do you prepare for that, and how do you put your best foot forward, obviously knowing that you have a fighting chance? We've seen how good you can play. So how do you prepare going into that?
It's very tough. I think if I just play normal or macro games, I'm just going to get owned, like completely owned, because he's just so good. But if I do some kind of weirder stuff that he doesn't have a lot of practice against, then maybe I could pull something off. I mean, at least take some games. I might not win the series, but I mean, it might be close if I do that.
Awesome. Well, I believe. Do you guys believe? That's right. Awesome, Neeb. Well, congratulations. You move on, man. One more round of applause here for Neeb as he moves deeper into this tournament. Congratulations. Back to you guys.
Powerful stuff indeed from Neeb, moving through into the semi-finals, and albeit to be said, the mismatches continue in my mind. Neeb absolutely smashing through it here. I feel like Nathaniel's looking even at game 2. Neeb made Mech against Protoss look like a joke with Purification Overs, Blinks, and then into those carries. He totally manhandled what Time was throwing at him.
I mean, Neeb played very well. Mech is a joke against Protoss, but the way that you dismantle it, Neeb just gave an absolute clinic on it.
Yeah.
Not allowing him to move out on the ground is one of the most important things to do. The Terran player has an extremely small window before that air transition comes. The Disruptors and the Blink Stalkers, that is the way to handle it. You're forcing the tanks to constantly have to siege. It's taking so much time, and then you make the transition into carriers.
Yeah.
There's really not a lot of tools that are going to be able to deal with it. And as Rotterdam was joking about, the transition back to ground from Protoss, if you overcommit to the air, like we didn't even get to that phase of the game. But it's extremely difficult. And Neeb knew exactly what he was doing, played that game perfectly.
Yeah, it's kind of funny if you do get to that late stage, right, where you got like 12 Thors trying to spread versus Disruptors while Immortals slay them, and you're like, ooh, this is nasty. So it's definitely an awkward situation, but just hats off to Neeb. He looked so clean in the way he microed that situation. That final game, I thought he was done. I was like, this situation's not good at all, but hey, the Prism's dancing in. It's escaping from the Vikings. He's recalling Zealots, going straight back across the map, sealing the deal with it while crushing a push, which, I mean, he really didn't have any business destroying so one-sidedly, but Neeb, he makes it happen once again.
I just enjoy the idea of trying to split Thors against anything.
It's
like,
the funniest thing you've ever
all
watched.
Right, I'll go this way.
The Thor is a strong unit, but it can't shoot air and ground at the same time. So when it takes 6 supply, it becomes your whole army, and then the Immortals and Disruptors are quite good backing up those carriers.
Yeah, not exactly the easiest thing to deal with. Of course, let's check in with the bracket here, though. We have 3 of our top 4 now solidified, and we're going to be moving on to our next round in a moment. It will be Cyril going up against Hero Marine. Bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we have not seen Cyril on the main stage, nor any of his games here on the main stream up until now, because we're in this world where we just kind of ignore him for a little while at WCS stops, because we know he's going to be prevalent later on.
Save the best to last, James. You know? It's like when you're really looking forward to, a meal, you always save the best bit to last. That's why dessert comes after dinner. Cyril, the dessert of Starcraft. I don't know where this metaphor's going, but
sometimes Cyril's he might be the steak and potatoes and the gelato after. I don't know.
He's just everything.
He's kind of the complete package, which is, well, that's why he just keeps winning everything.
Or you live in Kylaris world where you either just eat the chocolate cake first before everything, or just have chocolate cake completely for your entire meal. It's a great life.
I like your game plan there, man.
Yeah. It's I'm not the healthiest human being, but it's a great life, I suppose. Of course, and that brings us neatly on to a small break here, ladies and gentlemen, for WCS Fall. When we return, we are going to have our ZVT on the way. The Cyril, the world champion, goes up against Hero Marine.